It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Welcome to the show tonight. Baseball, and more baseball. Dale, how you doing? You've been spending some time around one of the regionals this past weekend, I do suppose.
Well, I did take in a game, the first game of the USM series, but I was not able to go back after that. I've come down with a little summer cold, and I was just trying to kind of get over it so I'd be ready for the show today.
There you go. We're gonna open up here in a minute. We're gonna talk a little bit about your sideline view. Let's go through that, and with somewhere in there, I know you've addressed your visit. You talked about Southern and LSU and the regional. Let's just talk about that and what the experience was, and what the fans and how all that was working, and what it was like being at that regional the night that you were there. Then we'll get into more details in the overall sideline view. How's that sound? How was your trip over there?
Trip was good. I went to the opening game on, I believe it was Friday at noontime, and USM played Army. So I got to see that game, and that was just a great pitching effort by the Golden Eagles. They ended up beating the Cadets 2-0, but the Cadets held their own. You know, they lost that first game 2-0, and they lost the second game 9-8. So they did really well in that series. Of course, that whole series was so close. Every game was close. And did you know the team that there were 7 games, I believe, total in that regional, and the designated home team won 6 of them. And usually it was in their last at bat, where there was the 8th inning, 9th inning, or 10th inning. It was just one of those deals. Yesterday's championship game was the only game that the visiting team basically won.
Wow.
And USM pulled that out, a great victory. And, I watched the game on television like a lot of folks did. But the atmosphere down there, even Friday for that Army game, probably wasn't at the level it was yesterday because of who USM was playing. You know, when you play LSU, it doesn't matter what sport it is. I mean, LSU just got that name.
Yeah.
And LSU is synonymous with the College World Series. I mean, you remember the 80s and 90s. Every year, LSU,
You know, we're going to look at that. We're going to talk about winning programs in a little bit. And I think, talking about LSU, I think they've got the third most College World Series victories of anybody. The third in number. I could be wrong on that, but...
well, they've been up there enough. They should have a few.
What was the crowd like, Dale? Was it electric and a lot of excitement and a full house and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it was a sellout even for the Army game on Friday. But the crowd was into it. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, these guys that were there probably been with the Golden Eagles all year. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
They've had some great crowds all year. And so, but just watching it on television, and I listened to one of the games on, I believe it was Saturday night when LSU came back from behind to win the ball game.
Yeah.
But Southern did a great job of hosting it. LSU fans probably wouldn't tell you that, but because they were fussing about hotel rooms even on Friday.
Yeah.
Wasn't enough hotel rooms that had it. For Baton Rouge wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, if you don't want enough games, you could host it.
Just win, baby.
I didn't want to tell them that. I didn't want to get mad at me. My son been good Mississippi host,
Yeah.
If you want to do it, host it,
That's right.
So that's kind of the way I look at it, So, but I'm going to tell you what, I heard there was like 122,000 folks attended all the regionals together.
Yeah.
And there was 8 different regionals.
Yeah.
I believe. Isn't that right? No, there were 16 regionals, right?
I think so.
16 regionals. Yeah. Well, yeah, the 64 teams had to be 16 regionals.
Right.
16 regionals, 122,000 or something like that. Southern Miss do 25,000 of those.
Wow. Wow.
Almost a fourth.
Yeah.
Almost a fourth. Well, about a fifth.
Yeah.
But now you just take it like this. I was reading an article this morning. What if Mississippi State and Ole Miss and LSU and Arkansas would have hosted a regional? I mean, you're talking about probably, I'm not saying, but if each of them averaged 10 a day.
Yeah.
There's 120,000 just between them four. So that tells you what the magnitude of college baseball is in this area, where it's LSU or Arkansas or Ole Miss. I know Alabama and Auburn's not right now at the fan level, but if they start winning, they'll get it too, because that's just what we do here in the South. We support our colleges.
Yeah.
So I just think that's fantastic. I think that's a great statement, for our area, that we are such loyal supporters of our local teams.
Yeah. And that's exciting that they are, I mean, these teams have had a lot of success. Mississippi State won the College World Series last year. Of course, they're out of the picture this year. But then Mississippi's got, two teams that's one of those two's going to the series. So it's big. Baseball's big in Mississippi. It really is, and it's exciting. Let's see here. LSU, I listened to the game yesterday on the LSU's broadcasting network and listened to them call it, and that was interesting, listening to the other side. But I'm going to tell you what, that bunch, they fought back against Army, they fought back against USM. Man, they just never quit. I mean, golly, they'd come back from 8 runs down against Army maybe, and then the 3 or 4 down from Southern, come back in the last at bat and go ahead. I mean, what a hustling, hard playing team. Of course, you expect that out of LSU, I suppose.
Sure, you do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pride. Pardon me. This summer cold is affecting my voice a little bit. I do apologize for that. I'll try to talk a little bit louder, but. No, I mean, the biggest difference in that ball game yesterday was, in the end, I thought Southern Miss had better pitching overall. I'm talking about all the way through. I thought, it was almost like LSU was putting a pitcher out there every inning.
Oh, man.
But I'm just saying that was the difference in those two. And I've made a comment on this show before when we're talking about Southern Miss this year, You can look at two things about, we talk about LSU having a great tradition and all that, but Southern Mississippi's only had 4 coaches since 1958.
Wow.
4 head baseball coaches. In 64, 5 years, ever what it is. It went from Pete Taylor to Corky Palmer. I mean, was it Pete Taylor and Hill Denson to Corky Palmer and all of them feed off of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I talked to Hill Denson about a month ago, and his biggest thing was that in his interview I did for him for a magazine that I write for, was that I wanted to make USM baseball where people cared if we won or lost.
Yeah.
And I think it's arrived at that point here, especially the last, he'll made it, people at least look up the score the next day.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
It's just transformed form, through all these years, but I mean, Southern Miss had a lot of big stars in it. That Christopher Sargent, the big first baseman they had. People don't understand. He's hit 21 home runs this year. That's not bad, but he got 3 or 4. They couldn't hardly get him out yesterday, and he was named MVP of the tournament. And they got great pitching. And Tanner Allen, that first day, he's their main starter. He's a sophomore from Zachary, Louisiana. And I know LSU's wondering, scratching their head, how they let him out of Louisiana.
Yeah.
But they were a pleasant story. But, you got to give your, I guess, some praise to Ole Miss and what they have battled through for the past month. They're 11-3 in the last 14 games, and that's why they made the tournament. They got hot at the right time.
Well, they started
they were
out.
The last teams.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. They were ranked number 1 in the nation toward the first of the season, were they not?
Yes, and then they fell on hard times. They weren't even in the top 24.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had made a great run. I don't know if you remember, they had to sweep Missouri and LSU.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to kind of get back in it, they ended up 14-16. But at one time, they were last in the West, and so they impressed me the way they went to Miami. You know, they had a chip on their shoulder. Hey, we're the last team in. We just want a chance.
Yeah.
And you know it. And Lord, they go down there and they win 3 games. And yesterday, Tim Elko, the big first baseman, who's been a 3-year captain for the team, excuse me, just a minute.
Yeah.
Pardon me about that, but
we appreciate you playing hurt,
Dale. And sir,
I said we appreciate you playing hurt.
Yes.
The great ones do
I've
that.
heard that before today. Yeah, I've heard that before. But Big Elko, he had 3 home runs, and they beat Arizona 22-6. And if you remember, Arizona's the one they lost to the Super Regionals last year, 2-1, and Arizona got to go to the World Series. And what people don't really realize, you know, they've kind of fussed at the Ole Miss coach a little bit. He's been to 17 NCAA tournaments in 22 years. That's not a bad record.
That's pretty good.
And Ole Miss went Super Regionals last year, going this year. Yeah. The year before that, their season was cut short. They were 16-1 when the season got cut short. Yeah. And then, and the year before that, they lost at the regionals to Tennessee Tech. Upset them. And Tennessee Tech had a great run too in that year. So I mean, both of these teams can play. I think it's great for Mississippi because in the end, we're going to have a team in the College World Series.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
that's the end line, you know. And I mean, we had a team last year, and everybody kind of got behind them. And I mean, it's great exposure for Mississippi. It's a great 2-week affair, love affair with the Omaha.
Yeah.
Things like that. I think Omaha likes the Mississippi teams coming on up there.
Yeah, they've traveled well in the past, have they not?
They have. Mississippi State showed out last year, you know, so.
You know, I've not been to a lot of baseball games, a lot of college baseball games. I went to my first one last year, and it was a super regional at Mississippi State when they played Notre Dame, and that was quite a deal. I listen to follow a lot of high school baseball, you know, and I see the pictures, but you know they may pitch 2 or 3 pitchers in the game, and I'm sitting there watching this stuff going on. It's this big league stuff, man. And I mean, they running pitchers in and out of there like, golly, it's like standing in the grocery store door with people coming in and out of there. They change at the drop of a hat, don't they?
They do. They do, and I don't know if you noticed. If you didn't see the game yesterday, but the USM pitcher that came in to close the game out in the 9th inning.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him.
He's 6'9".
God,
10 pitches, and 8 of them were strikes, and all the 10 pitches were fastballs, and they were like 95. And I mean, that's what these guys have now. I mean, when I was watching Major League Baseball when I was a kid, you know, those guys, Hank Aaron with them were hitting 85-mile-an-hour fastballs. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, the game has changed so much. I'm sure Hank Aaron and all those players of that era would still be great players because they would adjust because they're great athletes. But so you know, and then you look out at Stillwater regionals out there, Arkansas and Oklahoma State. There was one game out there, and I don't know what it was, like 40 runs scored, you know, by both teams. You know, one of them scored 27. Of course, Ole Miss getting 22 yesterday. Yeah, I mean, it's just phenomenal, you know, these runs being scored. So these pitchers, you know, you want them to pitch at least one time through the lineup, you know what I mean, you know? If you can get more out of them, that's great, you know, but in yesterday's game against LSU, what got me just looking at the box score after the game, because I'm good about looking at box scores, but what impressed me about it was that Southern Miss flew out 12 times in the ball game, okay?
Okay.
And LSU only flew out 3 times to USM's outfielders. So that's telling me that, in that ball game, there was, a different kind of attack mode by the teams,
Yeah.
It was like Southern, had a little more power, even though in the game, the final stats, you can believe this, was, they had, I believe it was, I'm trying to think about it, but it was like 3 home runs. LSU hit 3 home runs.
Okay.
And Southern didn't hit one, but, there's an old adage in baseball, too, that you got to keep the big pitcher to stretch. And Southern Miss did that yesterday. Yeah. They got their leadoff man on in 7 of the 9 innings.
Yeah, yeah.
Which means pitchers were pitching off the stretch. And so that does make it. And, the other was that, you always want to keep the double play in mind if you're a fielder. You don't want a guy to go from, you don't want to try to throw a guy out at third unless you have to, because you don't want the guy that hit the ball to get to second, if that makes sense. If there's a runner on first and the guy hits a double, you want to keep the batter at first base. At least you keep that double play option up there. But it's just great coaching, because I was listening to the comments yesterday. Southern Miss had a guy on second base in the 9th inning, and there was nobody out. There was a runner at first. Southern Mississippi had a ball to right field, and the game's tied at the time. The guy at second tagged up and went third. And the announcer said the reason he tagged up, he could see that the fielder was having to go back to catch the ball. And when the outfielder has to go back to catch the ball, he's not going to get a good running start to be able to throw the guy out at third. So that led him a chance to tag up and go to third. Mm. And so when he did that, the next batter hit a fly ball to left field, and it was the same scenario. The outfielder had to go back to catch the ball a little bit, and the guy tagged up and went home. But if any of those balls would have maybe fell in kind of, not fallen in front, but the guy could have caught it in front of him, he could have had a running start and thrown the ball home and had maybe a chance to get the guys out. So, there's little things like that, Marshall, at that level makes a difference, and that goes back to just great coaching.
Yeah.
And that's what we have in Mississippi at all of our baseball schools.
Yeah.
And we have more than just the big three, Jackson State's made a rumble the last couple of years. I know William Cary's always playing well. Belhaven had one of the better seasons they've ever had. Pearl River went up to Oklahoma and won the Junior College World Series this year. They're only the second team in the history of the state of Mississippi to win that. Jones won it back in 2016. So we've got a lot. We may be a football state, but baseball is close behind.
Well, Dale, let me stop you for a minute. Our first segment is going.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for that.
Man,
let's get to our guest.
Well, yeah,
let's get to our guest.
We have a very special guest tonight, and this one I lined up. You usually get them, and you do a great job. But I think I've topped you with our guest tonight. And this guy, man, I'm telling you, I've had the privilege of knowing him and speaking with him on multiple occasions. He's got over 40 years, in sports writing. So I want you to know, everybody.
I may know him then.
Yeah, it's you. Know him. It's you. You're the guest.
Oh, what? You didn't tell me that.
Well,
I'm sick. I'm sick. I can't be on the show today. I'm sick. Remember?
I've been trying to get a guest that could rival what you bring in here, and I think I've topped you, brother. I got the big dog. I got you. So we're going to look forward to talking to you in a minute.
All right, Mama, pray for me. Mama, pray for me real quick. Thank you.
Let's take us a break right quick, and then I'll be back with our guest, Dale, right after the break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody, and here we are with our guest, Dale. Listen, let's talk about, we're talking baseball. It's the topic of the hour. Let's move on here and let's look around. We know about Southern and we know about Ole Miss. Let's look at some of the other super regionals. And Knoxville, Tennessee, number 1 Tennessee is going to be taking on Notre Dame. Notre Dame made the super regional last year and lost out to State up there at Starkville. So, Tennessee, Notre Dame. Who you like in that one, Dale?
I'd have to go with Tennessee. They're the number 1 team in the country, but as Notre Dame showed us last year, they're not going to be intimidated by coming south for sure. I think they gave Mississippi State all they wanted last year.
Yeah, they did. Now we move out to California for the next super regional. We got number 2 Stanford versus UConn. I guess we're probably going to be looking at Stanford on that one.
I think we will, and I'll try to look it up at some time before the next show. But the freshman of the year pitcher in the conference out there, the Pac-10, is from Madison Central High School, and he's a freshman.
I did not know that.
He was their leading pitcher, and I think he played both ways, and he was probably going to be a number 1 draft choice coming out of high school last year. And I'm looking him up as we're speaking on the show, but I have to take a little break here and cough again, if you don't mind. Hold on.
You go right ahead. We got 5 teams from the SEC, in these super regionals, but we'll come back and look at the matchup out in Oregon. Number 3 Oregon State's taking on number 14 Auburn. That's one of our SEC representatives there. I guess you'd probably have to go with the Beavers.
Well, you kind of favor the home team in the super regionals, but you just never know.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I just don't know much about Oregon State to be honest with you, because their games come on and we don't see much of those games that they have. So I'm not really sure. I just know Auburn. Beat some pretty good teams in the region over there. They hosted. I know Florida State was in that region.
Yeah.
And I can't think of who else was in there with them. But they won that region, and so that's all you could kind of do, So
you probably know this.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah. You probably know this.
All right, the guy I was talking about for Stanford for just a minute.
Yeah.
It's Brandon Montgomery. It's a 6'1", 207-pound freshman from Madison, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And, let me see. He was. So one of our Mississippi teams may get to face him up there in the
That's true.
World Series,
Yeah.
And so he was Mississippi Gatorade Player of the Year, and it was a National High School All-American last year, and he was a number 1 prospect out of Mississippi and 23rd nationally last year. So anyway.
Oregon State's got a rich tradition. They've got 3 World Series titles, winning 1 in 6, following up in 2007, and then 1 in 2018.
But you know what but you know what their one problem is up there?
What's that?
They don't have the money the Ducks have.
Oh, them Ducks. Yeah, Nike will carry you a long way.
Yeah, that may be a problem,
especially as we move.
NIL is working up there. You think NIL is working?
Ooh, they take it to a whole new
level. Ball players in there making shoes for them.
Listen, we digress. Let's go to Blacksburg, Virginia, where number 4 Virginia Tech takes on Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, Oklahoma, it's kind of a surprise team there. As far as getting through their regional there, but so I don't really know much about Virginia Tech, and I know very little about Oklahoma, but I just got to go with I know ACC has had 4 teams left in the tournament, so I assume Virginia Tech's a pretty good team, so I have to give them that home field advantage too.
Let's look at College Station, Texas, where the number 5 Aggies of Texas A&M are going to be hosting number 12 of Louisville. That ought to be a good matchup.
Yeah, I like Louisville. I really do. Of course, now A&M, they ended up getting hot at the end of the year and winning the West, so that's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And, of course, they have a new coach down there at A&M. Came from TCU, I believe. He'd been at TCU for a long time, and I cannot pronounce his last name, but he's got about 15 or 16 letters in it. It starts with SCH.
Yeah,
So I'll let you figure it out from there. But anyway, I'm giving you these leads so you come up with some answers. So, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to include you a little bit more in this show today. I just want the fans to know out there, all my mom and, who else is a fan.
Yeah, well, we ain't got time for me right now. We got stuff to tend to. We're running out of time. Let's move on down to Greenville, North Carolina. Number 8, East Carolina. Number 9, Texas. The eyes of Texas will be upon that one.
Yeah.
That's a close, as far as national rankings, man, that's pretty tight.
It's very tight, and Texas probably scratching their head. Where are we playing at home? Where are we, Texas? We need to be playing at home. We good. We like LSU. We need to play at home. They got enough hotel rooms up here. So, I don't know. I'm just joking. Let's go to the next one.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina versus Arkansas.
It's the medicine. It's the medicine, Marshall. It's the medicine making me do this.
Pills are good.
Yeah,
North Carolina and Arkansas. Arkansas, they've had a lot of times at the top of the polls through the year, if I'm not mistaken. They've had a good run, but now they're not ranked right now, I don't think.
Who, Arkansas?
Yeah.
Oh, no, but they're the SEC and they play. Well, they were the number one team in the West until they got a little toward the end of the season. They kind of got into a little slump there, and A&M, kind of eased past them and ended up winning the division by maybe a game or two. But Arkansas's got a good team, and so North Carolina, like I said, I ain't said I don't really keep up a lot with those ACC teams in baseball and stuff like that. They're in basketball I do a little bit, and then, of course, in football I try to keep up with everybody. But I just don't know, and so I would probably maybe it wouldn't surprise me a bit if Texas won that one.
Yeah. All righty. Let's go to the end right here. The last one, Southern Miss and Ole Miss. You gonna pick that one?
I'd be. It's going to be an interesting pick every which way that we decide to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what. Last year, they met in the regionals in Oxford, and they were Southern Miss ended up beating Ole Miss the first time they played up there 10-7, and then the second time Ole Miss had to outscore them. I don't know, 12-10, 15-12. All I know is nobody had any pitching on the final day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just assume, I think Southern has a little bit more depth at pitching. Yeah. Okay?
All right.
I think Ole Miss has the ability, because they got most of their starters back from last year, offense, and I think that they can score some runs. Yeah. So it just depends. Who gets, and both teams are kind of hot right now. Ole Miss may be a little bit harder than Southern, if that makes sense to you.
It does.
But it just should be interesting. I thought the crowd had an effect on last night's game with USM came from behind, because that crowd stayed with them the whole ball game. It's like when they got down, even when they were down 4-1 yesterday early in the game. Yeah, that crowd was right there with them, and that's going to make a difference too. So I think you could, as they say, sometimes you could almost flip a coin on this one.
Yeah, yeah,
and just see. And it wouldn't surprise me if either team won.
Yeah.
That's how even it is, And I'm just glad that one of them's going to be able to go to Omaha.
Yeah, like you said, Mississippi's going to Omaha one way or the other. Dale, I hate to tell you this, but we're out of time. And, you're as great as a host that you are, you're even a better guest. So I don't know if that's good, bad, or ugly. I don't know what that is. But anyway, we thankful for you, Dale, and we appreciate you. But for now, we got to go. I want you to be sure to tune in or whatever. Just be here next week for more of the Brouhaha. Remember to check us out on Facebook and YouTube at the Brouhaha. And enjoy the rest of your week. But now, everybody knows what time it is. It's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Take us out of here, Jamie.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.